Last weekend I went to Tasmania with my uni mates and it got me thinking about a few things that I reckon I learned at design school that apply to everyday life. So today, that's what I'm going to talk about. Seven years ago, I decided to change my whole career and go and study something new. And that involved learning a whole lot of new stuff to do with design and architecture. And along the way, I've kind of gathered these lessons that I think are kind of applicable to everyday life. One thing that I learned the hard way at design school is that things actually take a lot of time and a lot of effort. And I have this aversion to doing drafts. Like, I just feel like it was always wasted time. And so what I realized is though that the thing that you see, the final product of anything you see that's creative, whether it's an artwork, a design, a piece of music, or a poem, or a book, or something like that, is that it's really not what the person is putting out on the first go. And I think that having drafts and iterations is something that took me a really long time to get used to. The thing that we face now is that we have so much social media that we always see people's end products, and it's so hard to actually get a grasp and understand just how much time and effort has gone into developing that thing. Because we see so many people's final products these days, we can see them as soon as we pick up our phone or open a computer or something like that. We actually don't get an appreciation of just how many drafts and iterations that person might have been through to get to that final product. The other thing that I learned at design school that took me a while to understand is that there's really no right answer and there's no wrong answer. There's just your response to whatever thing you're being faced with. Whether it's a design brief, whether it's a decision that you're making about your life, there's no black and white. It's all just, what would you do? And you kind of just have to deal with the consequences of whatever decision that you're going to make. As an autistic person, I find it very difficult when there is no clear right or wrong. I don't do very well with the gray area. I prefer things to be black or white. It's very difficult for me to deal with any of that sort of in-between gradient. And so it has been a really hard thing to get my head around. But the sooner that you realize that there's really no right answer, if you accept that there's no right answer, there's also no wrong answer, which I think makes life a little bit easier. The next thing that took me forever to actually accept and understand is that not knowing something is actually a good thing. In my life, the way that I kind of was brought up and the world that I existed in is that not knowing something was a failure because you didn't have that knowledge and therefore you're not smart enough or you don't know it, and that's bad. So to be able to undo that thinking took a lot for me. Now I know that not knowing something is a good thing because it means that there's an opportunity to learn. Although it might be difficult to admit when you don't know something, it opens you up to be able to be curious and to learn something that you didn't know before. The biggest advantage I had when I was studying architecture is that I was a little bit older than everyone because it's my second career. So the next lesson that I learned at design school that applies to everyday life is that just more time spent in the world is the biggest help. A lot of architects don't get famous until after they die, which is kind of grim. But what that shows is that it takes such a long time to gain the knowledge to be able to interpret and apply that knowledge in design. So the lesson there is that you have to be patient and just accept the lessons that the universe is teaching you and accept that all of that information that's coming in, eventually you'll be able to process it and apply it. And that can only happen by spending a lot of time. The more experience you get, the more practice you'll have at solving different kinds of problems, and so the more resilient you'll be able to be when you're faced with new problems. Take comfort in the fact that everything gets easier with time. The last thing to say is that design is never over. Just like life, it keeps going and going and going and going and going. You iterate, you do drafts, you make improvements, you gain more knowledge, you accept that you don't know something, you open your mind and you have a curious approach to stuff. And just like life, it just keeps going. Your brain and yourself, you'll just keep going through life, unless you choose the alternative, which I do not recommend. there are still things I'm thinking about, designs that I came up with from like first year that I just keep going. They just live on in my brain. If you are a design student and you're hoping to reach the resolution of your design, you'll only be able to get it so far within a semester or within a term or within a year. These things take so much time and so much iteration, and I think the biggest help is to just get comfortable with the process of just continually thinking about these things and accepting that these things are always going to change and evolve depending on what context these things come into contact with, how these things change over time. Design really, really never ends. This last thing wasn't on my original list, but after spending the weekend in Tasmania with my mates, I added it because I think it might be the most important one. And the thing I learned from design school, probably the most important thing I learned from design school that applies to everyday life, is that the people that are around you are so, so important. People that are around you, people that you're designing for, people that you're interacting with all through life, that's really what it is all about. It's hard for me to say that because there's not a lot of people that I connect with. I do find social interaction difficult at times. I do find being accepted for who I am very difficult at times because of the way that my brain is wired. But ultimately, in design, as in life, people are the most important. Human animals, we come together. This is why we have survived as a species for so long, even though we are objectively weak. And you can read all about that in science. But the reason that humans keep going is because we know how to interact and be social. And I would just say that I would not have got through any of this from design school to life in the last little while if not for the people that are around me. If you've been following my channel for a little while, or you're following me on Instagram, then you know that I haven't been having the best time of late, but I wanted to update you guys and say that I recently quit my job, which was not going very well. I have 1 week left, which I'm kind of excited to finish up because mentally it was just putting me in a really bad place. So hopefully, I don't have a new job yet, but hopefully I have a new job coming soon. And hopefully that also means that I'm going to have way more mental availability to be able to put together some projects and continue to make these videos for you. As always, thank you so much for being here. Every single comment I get, every single subscriber that I get, it just makes me so happy. I know that it's probably bad to rely on that external validation, but right now it's really, really nice that I'm connecting with you. Thank you so much for being here, and I will see you very, very soon.